Isaac and Albert Farhi are more than brothers. They're also business partners. It was a regular Friday night. Isaac had his brother and his family over for the meal. He was making kiddush.
In the middle of the kiddush, the phone started ringing. They left a message. They're calling from the ADT alarm, the alarm company.
Go down immediately to your store, the jewelry store that they own together. There was a break-in in Zone 3. Zone 3 is where the safe was.
I looked at Albert, my brother, said, Albert, what are we going to do? What's the plan?
They had in the safe jewelry that was worth between $500,000 to $1 million. And they knew that if there was a break in there, they're done.
Albert looked at me and said, Isaac, Shabbat is Shabbat. We have no plan. We give up all the money to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem. I'm not going nowhere.
The phone kept ringing again and again and again throughout the meal.
They keep calling, even in the middle of the night.
And again, Isaac kept reminding himself, it's Shabbat.
6 o'clock in the morning, they was calling again. And I went to shul in the morning as normal. We did the Shabbat morning meal, everything as supposed to be.
It wasn't until after Shabbos, Isaac picked up his brother Albert and they drove down to their store.
The gate was closed, the locks was closed. We opened the gate and I told Albert, stay outside, I'm going inside.
It was a mess. There was glass all over the place. Empty boxes from the showcase was strewn all over the floor.
I said to myself, the most important now, not all this, the safe, the big safe, that's what all the gold, all the diamonds, all the money's inside. I got to the safe room and I said, wow, I see the safe is closed. You know, like from outside, everything looked like normal. I'm trying to open the safe and I have like my hand shivering.
Usually it would take him 30 seconds to open. This time it took 5 minutes because every time he got to the end, he was so nervous his hands were shaking, he had to start over. Finally, he opens the safe, he opens the door, and he can breathe a sigh of relief. Everything is there.
I was so happy. I see all the gold, all the diamonds, everything inside. And I went out to say, Albert, Baruch Hashem, that everything's inside the safe.
But they're left feeling confused because the outside door was locked, the safe was untouched, and yet the glass was shattered all over the floor from all the showcases and the boxes were empty. There was jewelry from the showcase stolen and they don't know how they got in or how they got out. As they're walking around in their store, there were cops passing by and they saw the store was open. They walk over to Albert and Isaac and say, what's going on?
I said, we are the owner of the store. We got robbed. We got robbed last night. Take a look. He said, stay outside, and they went inside the store.
The police officers are checking it out. They come out 5 minutes later. They said,
you know, the alarm company called you last night. Where are you last night? Why you did not come last night? I said, listen, last night was Shabbat. It's our Sabbath. It's the holy day we have from Hashem. We don't come even for $1 million or $1 trillion. We don't come for the store. We don't come. For money, we don't come. Shabbat is Shabbat.
The police officers were just shocked. They said, your Sabbath, your God, saved your lives.
I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He said, come, I want to show you something.
They walk into the store and they show him on the ceiling. There was an air conditioning vent. And they said, we've seen this before. You see, these thieves, they got onto the roof of the building and they lowered themselves through the vent. And what they do is they activate the alarm purposely to get the owners to come down to the store to check it out, open the safe, make sure all is good. And when the owners open the safe, they jump on them, kill them, and take everything in the safe with them. They were waiting for you the entire night.
If you come, guys, last night, they will end up your life in a minute, and they will empty the safe and take them 1, 2, 3. Your Shabbat, your Hashem, save your lives.
The Torah says, "V'shamru b'nei Yisrael es haShabbos," that b'nei Yisrael kept the Shabbos throughout the generations, throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia. We kept the Shabbos, but more than we kept the Shabbos. Shabbos has kept us.
Someone sent me a video of a woman who's speaking on a talk show host, at a talk show, and she tells the host, she says, I live in a settlement. She says, it's Saturday morning on October 7th. She says this in Hebrew. And I have a little hole through my door, and I see commotion outside my door. I look through the hole in my door, and I see 7 terrorists outside my door. She says, I go to get 2 knives, I guess from the kitchen. She says, and I'm looking at this hole, and they're about to come into my house and destroy my family. And I have 2 knives. Like, what's 2 knives going to do with 7 terrorists with guns? And she tells the story. So I looked up to Hashem and I said, Hashem, for the rest of my life, I promise I will keep Shabbat. She says, I looked down and the terrorists were gone. and my entire family was saved. And then this one more story is the one that I guess got to me. Last Wednesday after the class, I did a video. Organizations sometimes like rabbis to speak on organizations. So there was an organization that's for people with cancer that wanted me to speak and give inspiration to those people. So they always come down to me or wherever any rabbi they're coming to. Okay, guys, come meet me here, and you record me for a few minutes, and then I'll continue doing my day or whatever I want to do. It's not really that disruptive. They set up the camera. I turn to the camera, talk for 10 minutes, go back to the day. It's basically like that. The man who came to set it up had like Hasid peot. I said, wow, you're Hasidish? He said, but nothing about him looked Hasidish. He said, no, I'm not Hasidish, but I have these peot. Like down to here. I said, why do you have these peot if you're not Hasidish? Like, I don't know if it's fashion. He says, I'll tell you my story. He says, I grew up very religious, and then I completely went off the path. I moved to Israel. I put on a ponytail. I completely went off the path. I partied, drank, drugs, everything completely gone. She says, I met my wife. She was a little more religious than me. Long story short, we became religious. We became Shomer Shabbat, and I became fully religious. And when I cut my ponytail, I had these peot still, and it kind of kept the bad people away from me. Like, I guess they realized I'm not who I used to be. And so I decided to keep them, even though I'm not like a Hasid, but I decided to keep them so people know where I stand. And today he's married with kids. Maybe he lives in Muncie. There's a bunch of children. Wonderful, beautiful. Okay, wow, very nice. So now, you piqued my interest. You were once religious. You weren't religious. How irreligious were you? I want to know what you do. Which drugs did you take? Whatever. So I'm asking him all kinds of questions. And he then tells me, he says, I have a friend who was supposed to be at that rave, at that party. I said, really? I said, like, what's the story? He says, a few months ago, this friend decided that he's going to stop going to parties on Shabbat. But his manager from Tel Aviv kept telling him, this party's different. You got to come to this party. This is the craziest party. You have to come. He says, my friend softened up. And a week before the rave, he told his manager, he says, I'm not going to come to this one. But the next time there's a party like this, maybe I'll come. And so he went with his family and he stayed home. He lived, his manager went to the party and was killed. So now here I am, here saying, man, this is not one of the famous stories. And I have a man telling me the story. I said, okay, maybe Hashem, maybe it's time for me to stop being blind. And maybe it's time for me to realize that there are so many stories that seem to all point to the same theme. Maybe we have a job to open our eyes. Not to be judges, but to be learners. Not to be the person who decides the reason. We're not reason givers. We're not prophets. But we could be people that take lessons and that listen and hear. Which means if this is everything we're saying is true, it's incumbent upon every single one of you and I to figure out how are we going to make our Shabbat better.